Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the July 24th, 2025 Raleigh Housing Authority Board of Commissioners meeting. Gwen, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, Eric Braun.
Here.
Evan Covington Chavez, not on. Valerie Crutchfield. Yeah. Susan Ellinger.
Yes.
Veronica Goodwin. Here. Arnie Morris.
Here.
Bahati Matisia is not on. Greg Warren is not here yet. Joe Whitehouse is not on. So we have a quorum.
All right. Our next item of business is recognition of visitors. Gwen, do we have any that you're aware of?
We have some people from the bond. If you want to introduce yourself, but bond resolutions we have tonight.
We'll let them introduce themselves when they.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Oh, Jingling Liu is on. She was a member of the public. Can you tell me who you're with again?
Hello everyone. I'm from Edgemore in infrastructure and real estate.
Okay. All right, welcome.
Next item of business is our public comment period. If you are here and you'd like to make a comment for the Board of Commissioners' benefit, we give each member 3 minutes to talk about anything, unless it is an item that is on the agenda, and at that point we will talk amongst ourselves. But if you would like to, this is the time to raise any issues or bring to the attention of the board anything that you'd like. So with that, are there any members of the public that would like to take advantage of making a public comment?
Hey.
Well, we have our normal and regular.
Sparkly day to you all.
Yeah. So fire away.
I'd like to say thank you, first of all, for the time I was away from home, not having my home violated. I really appreciate that nobody went in, and I felt when I got back from the hospitals and rehab that it was secure, and I felt that I was becoming a little safe. Second is, I think they need to make more of a attention on the grounds of the properties. Well, I can only speak for the one I'm at. There's trash out there outside the doors and in the breezeway. People are deliberately putting there, and it never gets seen or taken care of. I did ask if they could trim down the trees that are blocking the windows. For me, they said they have to have them all uniform, but they pulled out all the other plants, but they left that tree blocking the window so I can't get the light in there or see. And I'd like to get that changed. When I did return home, these are probably minor things to what your purpose is for, but they need to get addressed and heard and resolved. Not just listen to and just sweep it under the rug. But I've been finding that when I get sick a lot in the house, it's because of the air that's coming in from open ventilation in the ceiling or through the flooring, as well as on the sink spouts. They accumulate mold, and the air from the training fire station next door, all that burning stuff that's actually inside the house. Not just covering the vehicles, but it actually, all that black soot gets inside, even if the windows are closed.
And remind me which property are you in? I apologize. I don't know which.
I'm at Walnut Terrace.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do see that they are making great efforts there. Compared to when after it started, after the rebuild, I think they're making great effort.
Well, Well, thank you very much, and I know that staff is taking down notes on your concerns, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, the compliments. I know the staff works hard and to keep all the properties looking good, but you also can't account for some people that in the community, whether it's residents or others, can't account for bad behavior, but we certainly, I know the staff does its best to make sure the properties are clean and well maintained.
I appreciate that. And, the reason I mention about the spigots is because, if it's poor material being used and it keeps making us get sick because of those things, then something, that's why I requested before that they use quality materials and do quality work when they do builds or rehabs. Because the tenants are the ones that are using that every day, all day, not the staff. Thank
Thank you very much. Are there other members of the public that would like to share any comments? Hearing none, that brings us to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion and a second. If a commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, it will be done and considered as a separate item. The vote will be a roll call vote. There are three items. One is the charge off of delinquent resident accounts for June 2025. Item two is the occupancy report as of July 18th, 2025. Item three is the minutes from our June 26th, 2025 regular meeting. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull off the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion by Arnie Morris and a second by Susan Ellinger. Gwen, you want to call the roll?
Okay, Eric Braun,
Yes.
Valerie Crutchfield,
Yes.
Susan Ellinger,
yes,
Veronica Goodwin,
Yes.
Arnie Morris.
Yes.
Consent agenda has been adopted.
All right, that brings us to there, I don't have a report as such. I'll reserve some comments potentially for commissioner comments towards the end of the meeting. That would bring up the new report of the board secretary, Ashley.
Good afternoon. I'll share my screen. Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public, and staff. So I'll okay. Good afternoon. My report today will cover these topics. I want to welcome a new staff person, executive staff person, and talk about the 2026 federal budget that as proposed by the House. Just found out that the Senate 4 hours ago approved their budget. I'm not going to go into detail on that budget because I don't know too much about it. And then I have some other brief updates that I want to share with the board and with the public. First, want to welcome Will Biggs. Will Biggs started earlier this month. He is our chief of staff, and over time he will oversee all of our operating departments. Most recently, Will served as the director of HUD's Public and Indian Housing offices for the state of Tennessee for 4 years, and Georgia was added to his portfolio the last 2 years. Prior to that, he served as a general counsel and also director of affordable housing for the Nashville Housing Authority for a total of 8 years. Prior to that, he worked for HUD in multifamily and asset management, and then transitioned to the legal department and this was in the Tennessee office. He also worked for the Department of Agriculture before that. Will has a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology, a Master of Science in Agricultural Science, and he has a Doctor of Jurisprudence. In other words, he has a law degree. Will, welcome to the Raleigh Housing Authority. It's been a pleasure for me to have you around and for us to have you around for the last month.
No, thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
Anything you want to share with us? We're, tell you what, your experience, is just fantastic. And I know you're gonna come and really add value to the organization and really help us continue to move things and advance our pretty aggressive agenda over the coming years. So we're really, really thankful to have you and welcome you and eventually your family to Raleigh. And thanks for being here and joining us.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity. I've been waiting multiple years to get a chance to work with Ashley. I met him over 10 years ago. He's one of the few people that I would come and serve under in this capacity. And I'm so glad I did, because being here, meeting the staff, you've got an outstanding team. I'm just so happy to be a part of it. I've been other housing authorities I've shared with you. It's not a wonderful team. And this one is absolutely top notch. So I'm so looking forward to finding my role and helping this team to elevate to the levels that we aspire to be at. So excited to be here. Looking forward to working with everybody. And thanks for the warm welcome.
Thank you.
Well, next I want to turn to the 2026 budget proposal on the House side. The Senate was doing their review and proposals and approving their proposal today, and I got wind of some of what was proposed there. So for the House budget, the Public Housing Operating Fund is proposed to be cut back from $5.5 billion to $4.98 billion, a cut of 9%. For us, that means roughly around a cut of $500,000 in operating fund. On the capital side, $3.2 billion was the 2025 budget, cut proposed of 28.6%, with a funding level of only $2.3 billion. So a cut of $1.06 billion. Sorry, that should be a B instead of an M. The Housing Choice Voucher HAP fund that funds the rental assistance for the Section 8 voucher program. The funding was at $32 billion for the current year, and there's a massive increase of 0.00012%, total of 6,500. I know, I believe that's, anyway, some figure like that, but not much increase at all. The Housing Choice Voucher administrative fee funded currently at $2.75 billion, and the proposed cut of 28%. They like the 28% cut. So that is a reduction to $1.95 billion, and again, sorry, it's a cut of $1.2 billion, a total of 28%. And then a significant number here is tenant protection vouchers. So tenant protection vouchers are provided when Section 18 applications are approved for demolition and or disposition. This current year level is at $337 million. And next year, there's an increase of 11% proposed in the HUD budget to $375 million. Now, while I have this on the screen, just want to point out what I learned about the tenant-based rental assistance. The House, as you can see, has a $32.145 billion increase, or not increase, that is the total budget for the year. The Senate's version is over $37 billion, a huge increase. And similarly, on the public housing side, there are increases and no drastic decreases like this budget proposes. The committee vote was overwhelming, with only one opposed to the Senate proposal. The House, of course, is not bipartisan at all, so it was just a party line vote on this proposal that is displayed, and then the Senate, of course, it's a slightly different situation. So now this is not wanting to go to the next slide for some reason. Let me exit, or let's try this arrow here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the House budget lowlights, 82% cut in administrative fee. So currently, we are funded at 90% proration. So proration just means that 100% is what housing authorities are eligible for and needed to run the program. So this year, we're only receiving 90% of what we should be receiving for administrative fee to manage and administer the Section 8 program. So if you take 28% cut out of that 90, it's roughly 65% that's proposed that we will get next year to run the program. So current utilization levels of the Section 8 program, when I say utilization, is voucher utilization, levels will not be sustainable with only 65% of the admin fee. And this is deliberate, although the vouchers are funded at at level funding. So flat funding under the House budget. This admin fee cut means that housing authorities will not have the resources to actually administer the program. So it will mean lower voucher utilization because there won't be enough staff to do the work, and this simply means a permanent reduction in vouchers because the next year's funding is in Section 8 is based on the current year's spending. So if housing authorities spend less this year because they don't have the admin fee, next year they'll be funded at the level that they are spending this year. So the capital fund cut that I wanted to highlight there of 28.6%. This is just a further signal that there is very little support for public housing, so that what will happen in the future is that the condition of public housing will continue to deteriorate and will eventually not be habitable. And this is intentional. For us, with a large public housing program over 1,000 units, this just makes this cut is just further indication that we have to treat repositioning of public housing through the rental assistance demonstration program as a matter of high urgency. The 11% increase in tenant protection vouchers or tenant replacement vouchers, this is significant. So this is the only substantial increase. So you may want to ask, why are they increasing this? My sense is that in the House and in the HUD administration, there is a commitment to funding the conversion of public housing to under the RHA program that requires tenant protection vouchers. So that's my reading of why there's this lone increase in funding in the HUD program, while other programs like the CDBG program is completely zeroed out under the House budget. And so what are the next steps? The Senate proposals were due today, and I mentioned a couple of figures there on the Senate side. In the Senate, there's a 53 47% split between the majority and the minority, but the budget requires 60% vote to advance appropriations. So inevitably, the budget proposal, if one is created, ends up being bipartisan and is expected to be more generous than the House. And now, having read just a snippet about it, it's clear that it is a lot more generous, especially on the Section 8 side. The House and the Senate is in recess until September 2nd. The budget is, the deadline to adopt a new budget is September 30. What this means is that a continuing resolution will be required and is inevitable, unless, of course, there's an appetite for one or other party to force a shutdown of the government. Right now, this is before I read the Senate's kind of top line numbers, a year-long continuing resolution might be the best potential outcome for our programs. So just kind of an aside, not aside, but an additional piece of information. There are bills I talked last week about, or last month, about authorization bills and appropriation bills. And so recently, in the last few years, reconciliation bills have also been entertained and passed. And this is now becoming a new tool to undo the budget. Reconciliation bills in both houses only require a 50% vote. So the Senate can, for example, adopt a bipartisan budget because there's a 60% requirement vote to advance appropriations, and then a month later, a reconciliation bill can be passed that only requires 50% vote. I don't think that there will be an appetite to cut housing like this, but this is something that we need to watch out for. Just like the public broadcasting funding, about $9 billion was cut recently through a reconciliation bill, cut from the current 2025 budget. Some notable news from the staff side. We have just been informed today that we will be receiving 2 national Community Innovation Awards from HUD. One was for the Heritage Park relocation process and outcomes, and one award was was titled a strategic path from 91% to 101% housing choice voucher utilization. So both those nominations are receiving awards, and those will be recognized at the next NARO conference in Phoenix in October. So congratulations to the relocation team and to the Housing Choice Voucher team for being recognized in that way. The Heritage Park relocation, we're happy to report since our last board meeting, the last family has left Heritage Park, and so the site is now 100% vacant. So want to extend my congratulations to Laura McCann, who led that effort, put together the team, and executed the strategy that a number of people were involved in designing. Glenwood Towers, you are aware that we submitted a RAD application. The application has been accepted. In the next month, we have to go through some administrative procedures, removing units from our count, and then we'll officially have an approved application. This application is a very skeleton application with not a whole lot of detail to it. Those details will be developed over the months to come. RAD applications for the remainder of public housing will be submitted, will be developed over the next 6 months, and we should have submitted applications for all of the public housing in the early part of next year. The board may be aware and is aware that staff has launched the first RHA on the Move update newsletter that goes to external stakeholders, our government and city partners, county, city of Raleigh, other service organizations, and other developers and so on. So this is the first one. We expect that it will be sent to external stakeholders quarterly. And Katie Labrato, who is our strategic engagement manager, she has done a great job with all of our communication and deserves recognition for this new newsletter that will inform our public about the progress that we are making on our strategic plan and our mission. And lastly, we are ready to submit a scattered sites Section 18 application upon approval by the board. And that is my secretary's report today. So I'm open to answering questions.
Ashley, congratulations on Heritage Park and getting everybody placed. Has the site been secured? Is it blocked off now where no one can enter the site, or what's the condition of the property?
I believe Kenya is there. Maybe she can answer that question. She can answer these questions better than I can when it comes to Heritage Park.
No, we don't have fencing up yet around the site, but the units themselves are boarded up from inside. We didn't want it to be unsightly to have the boarding from outside. So the units are boarded up from inside. We still have Kiara still on site. So we still have someone in the manager's office there. And then we still have maintenance who comes periodically on site every day.
Is it gonna be fenced also?
Yes, that was part of the demolition.
Yeah, I went by there last week and it looked good, you know, no trash, all the grass was cut, so just a little empty.
Yeah, so I'd encourage you to take a drive through, although we say it's boarded up. You don't necessarily see boards, just looks like, somebody might be living in there. So they've done a really good job with that system of boarding.
What's the schedule for demolition?
The schedule is to have the demolition contractor on board, by September.
Ashley, going back to the budget a little bit, and this may be, show my, ignorance about the federal budgeting process, but, we've heard, everybody's heard about the big beautiful bill and the significant cuts that have been made to other, service areas. How does that, one, has that led to any direct impacts to us yet? And how does that relate to the budget process? And again, forgive me if I should know that and I don't, but, and if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. We haven't done much analysis of our population to, determine or take a guess at the impacts on our population. The budget process, a little bit that I read this afternoon about, from the Senate side, is that they wanted to provide significant support through the HUD budget because of the expectations that people of uh, you know, uh, low income and limited economic resources will be affected by the big, beautiful bill. So the Senate, overwhelmingly voted, the subcommittee overwhelmingly voted for a budget that exceeded even the industry's request for funding. So FADA, we're a member of FADA and NARO, and the budget request from the industry was for $35 billion for the Section 8 tenant-based assistance program, and the Senate's 37 billion plus billion dollars is an indication that or reflects the intent to provide support, expecting that there will be people who will be affected by the budget cuts on Medicaid and other support programs. So just the process going forward, at some point, the Senate and the House will have to reconcile their two bills, and they will have to come to agreement on what that looks like, what's going to look like. So even in the majority party, there's obviously wide differences of opinion about what the budget should look like. But then, in the Senate side, of course, the minority party will have a say too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of September before they reach the deadline for the budget. They will obviously not reach that deadline, and it'll probably be again in March of next year where we know what our budget's going to be.
Thanks. Do we have any, and at the state level, we're getting to the point where it appears we're doing the same thing as Congress and punting and not having a full budget. Does any of their budgetary gyrations impact us directly? I think you may be muted.
Yeah, that's not something that we have analyzed at all, but we can certainly take a shot at that.
That's fine. I don't feel like it did, but I just didn't know if there was something that, we ought to be aware of, but, that's fine. Are there any other questions for Ashley? Any other commissioner questions? All right, well, thank you. We appreciate the report. That brings us to the report of the Real Estate Investment Committee Chair. Sorry, I'm staring at the letters and the words aren't coming out.
Well, I apologize for arriving late. From Durham, it took me an hour and 20 minutes on I-40. Right there. At any rate, Kenya provided me this morning, or earlier today with a report. And do you have copies of that we can hand out?
Yeah, you took them. That's the presentation from the.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we'll
Awesome.
hot off the press. Here's the rest of it. And then we have one for Arnie. Yeah, that way. I'll just hit the highlights on this. We met 2 weeks ago. Basically you're seeing the topics that we covered. And some of this really repeats some of the updates that you may have received from Ashley's report. But basically, one of the things, there are a couple of things here regarding professional development and community events and upcoming events that I'd like maybe Kenya to speak about, because these are being initiated by the Real Estate Development. And I'm not entirely familiar with what's been going on. The committee's not been directly involved in that, but do you want to touch on those items, Kenya?
Sure, I think that it was important for us as a team to make sure that we had some engagement and involvement with the communities outside of, hello, we're coming to redevelop your community. And so we've been working really closely with the resident services team on some of the initiatives that they are working on and partnering with them and assisting them with those activities. We've done, a range of things. At the end of last year, we did and we helped out at Carriage House with the holiday event, and then most recently, working at Birchwood Eastwood on a community event that was sponsored by an outside organization, the Advocacy Against Homelessness. And we are really targeting those communities that are what we've identified as our priority properties for redevelopment, so that we can have some level of engagement, again, like I said, prior to us coming in and to redeveloping those sites. And the heavy lifting is really done by our resident services team in partnership with our team on execution and sometimes strategic input. The next event that's coming up is a community resource fair that Suzanne Sand on our resident services team is taking the lead on. And we've provided, some input in terms of relationships and other contacts that we have that could participate in this community resource fair. And then again, that'll be on September 17th. And that's for all of RHA, properties, public housing properties. And then in the fourth quarter we're planning to do this every quarter. And then again, in the fourth quarter, working on a holiday event at,
Thanks. You'll see on the first page, detailed timeline for key events at Heritage Park. A couple of things I'll just point out to you is that you may recall that we submitted an application for the first phase of the development of the first phase of the project, which would be 51 units for seniors. And that's, we're seeking 9% tax credit award from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. That will be announced, we believe, in August, and based on communications the staff has had with the Housing Finance Agency, we're reasonably optimistic that that project will be funded. That will then lead to next phase, which is the next phase of the Heritage Park development. If you think of it as maybe as 4 quadrants, we're really focused right now on the quadrant that is bounded by South Street and South Saunders Street. And the next phase of that quadrant would be roughly 120 family units. Again, 100% affordable, I believe.
through the tax credit.
Yeah, through tax credits. And that would be submitted to the Housing Finance Agency in January. And meanwhile, as mentioned, the demolition process is moving forward with HUD approvals and the like, and an RFP going out. I will note that there's been, and I'm not part of this, or the staff has really been spending a great deal of time working with the city of Raleigh on utility issues and street alignments. The closing of South Street has created a need to have some sort of interconnectivity for the folks moving on South Street past Heritage when it is closed to get back into downtown. And so there's a clover loop that I guess is Dawson and MLK. That how that's going to be configured is all a complicated matter with state folks, city folks, and lots of different involvement in this. So I think that is an ongoing and complicated negotiation. Who pays for some of these utility improvements? And so that's really going to perhaps require some advocacy on the part of board members with elected officials as well. Because I think in the end, it is kind of a political decision on the part of the city, how much the ultimate design as well as who pays. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody might have on Heritage further than what has already been touched on today.
When's the next REACT meeting?
REACT meetings now are scheduled for 2 weeks before the board meeting, every 2 weeks on a Friday. So that will be in August
August 11th.
11th.
Same time every Friday.
Yeah, we're running from 10:30 to 12, right? Yeah. And just as a reminder, the folks who are on the REACT committee are Arnie, myself, Eric is not, sorry, but Eric always attends dutifully, and Joe Whitehouse, as well as Ashley. And so we're continuing to plug along with that. Scattered sites. We have single-family homes scattered throughout Raleigh. That was kind of part of the initial First Hope 6 project, I think, as a vision resource.
Right.
And the direction that we're going on this is to seek HUD approval that will lead to eventual sale of the property, these properties, because they're not very efficient to manage, being scattered throughout the city. And today we'll have a resolution authorizing RHA to apply for Section 18 disposition funds, not demolition, but just disposition and tenant protection vouchers. And what's going to be done with those properties is still under discussion, but we don't anticipate, I understand the direction staff wants to take, just wholesale selling them. They're occupied right now by residents. They will have the opportunity, if they want to purchase those properties. And I think that there's hopes to bring on some sort of counseling function, either by RHA or by groups that do that work for homeownership counseling, to give everybody an opportunity to purchase if they so wish to. But then folks will also, under this plan, have the ability to take a voucher and move elsewhere. And then furthermore, I think that the staff is going to be continuing to look at whether or not those properties, if the tenants don't choose to stay there, whether or not those could be made available for homeownership opportunities, working partnerships with other nonprofits. So that's that. Yes.
How much communication has been had with the tenants in those houses? Are they aware of the process and where we are in the process?
Yeah, they're aware. We've had over 10 meetings with residents. So we've had those both in person and virtual. And then we've also consulted with the resident council president, as well as the RHA resident advisory board, about our plans for scattered sites. We're required to have 2 meetings as part of the Section 18 application. But again, we've had over 10 meetings. And trying to make sure that we're very intentional about our engagement and outreach so that folks know. And then we've also followed up with email communications and correspondence, with residents as well.
What kind of reaction are you getting?
I think when we have these meetings, there's a lot of information that we're required to share. And I think that at the end of the day, residents just want to know, do I have to move? When do I have to move? And what is the impact on my rent? And I think in this process, our goal is to continue to maintain the affordability and for residents' rents to continue to be affordable. And so I think that, and they don't have to move under this process. I don't need to do a presentation for the resolution. So they don't have to relocate as part of this process. It is optional, it's not required. And I think that residents are generally okay. We haven't really received any negative feedback about the process. I think a number of years ago, a couple of years ago, we surveyed residents, and one of the responses from residents is we want to know what's happening in our communities. And so that's why I think we've been very intentional in the number of meetings and the outreach that we've had with residents. And making sure that that information is clear enough.
So are we offering the houses to them at a discount of any?
At this point, I think as Ashley indicated, the real primary goal is for us to do the conversion process, and getting the units from public housing to Section 8. And so this is the process that we can do that through the Section 18 application. The initial disposition will be similar to Heritage Park, to an RHA controlled entity at below fair market value. And then after that is the opportunity, I think, for us to explore, there's been a lot of discussions about homeownership opportunities and also looking at missing middle opportunities on this. I think given where we are, based on all the information that's been shared, the real goal is to really get these out of the public housing and put them into Section 8, and then we can explore those other options in terms of potential home ownership and missing middle opportunities to the extent that there are some.
So the way I'm thinking of this is the step that we did, just like the other properties that are now in RAD that we converted. We're just, right now, we're conveying them to ourselves, to an instrumentality, and that's really all we're doing at this point. But the issue of whether and how we dispose of them beyond that is going to be a discussion that we will collectively have, in terms of strategy. But this first step is simply to act with some haste to get them out of the public housing program, and allows us to maintain them more effectively. And so I'm equating it to I forgot how many did we put in OCAC?
4 communities.
So we conveyed 4 communities to OCAC. That's effectively what we're doing with the scattered sites.
OCAC or some.
Or some other, but it's gonna be
you know.
an instrumentality we control. And then the next step will be a conversation about what do we do with them now that they're out of the public housing realm. So this is just a very preliminary step before kind of the more complex potentially discussions, which are we gonna dispose of them? And if we are, how are we gonna do it, and how, what's the ownership, goal and all those things, which we've not had a full discussion about that, but I think that's kind of, at some point, we'll have those discussions as a board. And
yes, that's correct. I just want to put a point of clarification. Those properties went through the RAD process, whereas this is a Section 18 process. And so those are project-based vouchers. And in the case of the scattered sites, those are going to be the tenant protection vouchers. So those will be vouchers that they stay with the tenants.
so they could decide, but
Those would be new vouchers coming into RHA.
That's
as well.
correct, 108.
but they shouldn't, if a resident, the day after, assuming we approve it, it happens, They really shouldn't see any difference in how the properties operated in their circumstances.
For the most part, there are some like minor differences between, the calculations from public housing and section 8, so there will be some differences. But in terms of operationally, RHA will still be the landlord. They will have to have a separate lease because it won't have they're in a public housing lease. So there are some differences that they will have, but the goal is operationally, that it should be the same.
And I just want, for the public benefit, I just want to make sure this is a conveyance from the public housing program, which the housing authority obviously manages and operates these properties under. And it's being conveyed to an entity that we control. And so it's not being conveyed to a private entity or to a developer or anything else. We will continue to have sole authority over it and how it operates, and there'll be some further discussions about the future of those sites.
That's correct, and that'll be a part of our application to HUD. Will include that conveyance and how we have to convey it, so HUD approval will give us the approval to do that conveyance to an RHA.
And you've obviously conveyed all this information in these multiple
Yes.
meetings you had with the
Yeah.
residents. And I guess it's good because I know that when some of these things come up and people do get concerned, I know that I and other board members get emails and things, and I haven't received any emails, and so at least I suggest that there hasn't been an uproar or some extra. So it sounds like, as with Heritage Park, y'all have done above and beyond trying to keep residents informed, especially now in this culture of the environment of a lot of uncertainty for any number of reasons. So I appreciate the extra effort that you all are putting into this.
And I think it's important to note that this is consistent with our strategic plan, which is basically says we're moving out of the public housing realm entirely. And these are just a very different type of housing than the rest of our stock.
Yes. Good point. Other questions? I'm sorry, I don't know if that was the end of the report.
No, there's a third page. There's this other development called Glenwood Towers.
Oh, yeah.
That has 290 plus apartments for seniors. This is, we are pursuing a phased redevelopment strategy on this. And what we're trying to do is come up with replacement housing for the tenants there. We're very early on in this process, but we have submitted, I guess, the RAD and Section 18 blend application. Am I right on that? Yeah.
We submitted the RAD.
Yeah, that was done at the last meeting, maybe, or the motion, or a couple of meetings ago. We'd have a motion on that. So that, but what's going to happen on the Glenwood site is not determined yet, as far as I know, from what I understand from the staff. But we think that the property has significant issues and may not be a candidate for renovation and may be a candidate for demolition instead. But what happens to that site and adjoining sites that it has where the old church is there, if you're familiar with that on Tucker, as well as a parking lot across the street, there's a lot of opportunity in that real estate, and how that's going to be developed is still, I'm not aware of that the board has really discussed that or gotten any, or the staff has really dug into that. So I just wanted to point that out, that is still an issue that needs a lot more research on. But RHA is moving ahead with trying to find replacement housing for seniors, and the Halifax RFQ. There's the property that we own, which is currently a ball field right over there. Is an RFQ was sent out, and I guess you have now 4 potential developers that you've invited to submit an RFP on, and I presume we'll hear more about that from staff when they get those RFPs and what they think about them in responses to the RFPs. Any questions on that? Okay, that's the end of my report.
Just want to make a comment generally about our approach. Is we know there are limited resources available. We know that HUD staff has been cut, so there are limited HUD's resources. And so our strategy is based on let's get our applications approved and moving through the system so that we can get the commitments of a RAD application approval. And then, and in the case of the scattered sites also, is we didn't want to burden that proposal to HUD with complications about a home ownership program and how that will work and any other things that we're contemplating. The idea is to get an application out, whether it's RAD or other, secure the approval, get the resources so that we can move forward and so that we can get the resources before other housing authorities get in line before us. So that's part of the strategy that's informing our approach to getting things done as quickly as we can.
Well, thank you. I think that makes perfect sense, and there's so much uncertainty out, in the environment. And I do, again, want to make sure that this is the beginning stages of these redevelopments, and the board and the community will have lots of opportunities for input in terms of what these redevelopments are gonna look like, how they're gonna be handled, and so most of those decisions have not been made, and so we'll look forward to hearing more from staff about how that process is gonna work. And I know you have your plates full, your bowls full, and your hands full with this whole process. So thank you for all the work and help navigating it. That brings us to commissioner comments. And please, I'd encourage you to share your thoughts, ideas, questions with us and staff. And one day I'm gonna start just going around the room, putting people on the spot.
All right, I'll be nice and I'll ask a question, okay? I'll play with you.
You don't have to be nice, but you can be.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Eric, I know you had talked about working with Ashley to form committees and where you were on that process, and maybe that's happened already and I missed that. Do we have additional committees in place now?
We have 4 committees. The Real Estate Investment Committee, the Audit and Finance, the Programs and Policies, and Personnel and Executive Reviews. Those are the 4.
Okay.
We have them. They all, except real estate investment, are gonna meet quarterly.
Mhm.
You all have too much going on to meet quarterly, and so I believe you're meeting monthly, right?
Yep.
Give or take. And depending on the circumstances, there may be reasons that other committees might have to meet more frequently than that, but generally speaking, and so Gwen sent out calendar invites. I communicated committee assignments, and so.
And I don't know if everybody was on, I thought everybody was on the email that kind of listed out the committees, but maybe
They
it
were.
wasn't everybody.
They were.
Okay.
Everybody.
And there was an email that came out. to everybody.
I believe it, did others get, I believe it went to everybody.
Yeah. I think it-
I had to go into my RHA account. Yeah,
But, and there's a couple of people are serving on multiple committees. We know there's gonna be some shifting over time, and all this remains flexible. We've not had as a robust committee structure in the past. And so, we're learning this a little bit, and we're gonna have to navigate it with staff and, get the process is down and everything, but I think once we kind of get into a rhythm, I think it's gonna make the work of the board and the committees more efficient and effective, because we can, you know, as staff knows, and most of you are learning, new folks, we're pretty much a working board, and we have a lot of expertise, and we want to figure out a way to channel that in an effective and efficient way, so we get the benefit of board expertise and bring that in with the staff's, obviously, their expertise. So I don't know when the next meeting of the other groups are, but you should have calendar invites. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll go from there.
But Eric,
Yes,
the dates of the Finance and Audit Committee have been set. The next meeting of the Audit Committee, the first meeting of the Audit Committee will be next month, 2 weeks before the board meeting. The other two committees, the months for those meetings have been determined, and the board members on those committees have been asked to respond to doodle polls and they have to select the dates that work best for them. So we still have to just finalize the meetings for the next 12 months for those committees.
I think we've done that, actually.
Yeah.
We finalized the meetings, and Gwen has sent out the calendar invites. So we're good, unless we've got conflicts with folks.
Eric, can I just say a couple things about the committee?
Yes,
As you said, I think in the past, RHA's board is not really through committees. There was an audit committee, that met every year, received the audit and had the authority.
Twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year, had the authority that an audit committee usually had, which is a lot of authority. And then when the agency started doing lots of real estate repositioning, redevelopment, formed the RHA committee. I think it had a different name at the beginning, repositioning committee. And now you got these other two. So you might want to think about reflecting those committees, if they're going to be permanent, in the bylaws. Okay? There's nothing in the bylaws about any committee right now. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I think that the board and your CEO and top management should be of one accord about what the role of the committees is going to be. In some boards, the role of the committees is just to hear a report from the CEO, give him some feedback, and the full board will decide what you're going to do. But in other boards, the role is the committees make a recommendation to the full board. So a lot of the work really gets done in the committee. So I think you decide, which way you want to take that. But if you really develop this committee structure, it will make your board operations a lot more effective and efficient, I think. Commissioners can really work on the issues that they have expertise in and that they're most interested in.
And that's what they've done with the audit committee. They've always given the audit committee the right to approve the audit report and really just present it to the,
I think and that's a great point. I think the place maybe that I think committees can talk about it, during their initial meetings, partly. I think we talked about having the retreat, and I can't remember when we talked about that, but we can maybe have one of our discussion topics at the retreat would be that specific issue. How do we want our committees to operate? And that discussion should involve, obviously, staff input as well.
Right.
So we're all on the same page about the goals and the functions and, what we hope to achieve. So I don't disagree with any of that. And I'm fine if we need, if we don't want to wait. Ashley, what did we say? We kind of targeted a kind of a general time frame for the retreat?
We thought in the fall, October or early November, but it may also be, and we can talk some more appropriate, when we're, before we're, looking at our budget for the next year so that the budget is informed by strategic plan considerations. But we
Well,
will,
let's just.
Yeah.
Sorry, so let's just think about that, but I think that may be a good place to talk about it. The other thing we can do, and I don't want to overload the board or anybody with meetings, we can have a working meeting, at some point, or if we have a light agenda, we can have a meeting, that focuses on that as well, but.
Just quick question, following up on Charles, your suggestion. I asked, when I was at DHIC, we had something called committee charters, which are not a detailed, like a 1 or 2 page description of what the committee's roles and responsibilities were. And I thought that was useful. I checked with Yolanda and she said, well, we've now kind of folded that into our bylaws. The only problem with bylaws is that they're a lot more complicated, they're more fixed. So if you want to do that, that's fine. So I think you can go either way, but I think you should have something written down that describes what the committee is all about and what they're going to do, and how they're going to operate.
I agree. Yeah, many boards will have a committee charter that will be reviewed annually. So this is what this committee is responsible for. And usually bring it back to the full board and say, this is what we think, you all agree.
Yeah.
And most recently, I was involved where we created similar situation, never had committees, created the committees. We asked the, there was some direction by the board, but we asked the committees with staff to kind of come back with a proposal for what, they obviously would kind of know what the universe of subject matter the 4 committees are, and ask them to give some thought to what they thought the roles should be, and then they brought it back as a proposal to the full board, and the board talked about it, and then we incorporated the final kind of description into this was a charter for the overall agency, but I don't think there's any right answer, but I think that maybe having those discussions at your first organizational meetings, obviously not the same. Audit and finance is almost going to be a new committee because it's not just audit anymore, we're doing the finance side of it too, so. But we don't have to resolve it today, but I think all valid points. I think we need to figure out where the best place is to have those discussions and put some framework around the committee's work. And I think it could be slightly different. I think real estate investment committee is just kind of entirely different kind of committee than the other 3, just because of the volume of matters they're dealing with. Depending on when the retreat is, let's put a pin in that might be the place we talk about it. But if we have committee meetings, I think there's not, I'd like to encourage, and I'm going to try to attend them. But I'd like, I think that initially getting kind of set up and thinking about what you'd like to achieve relative to the strategic plan and relative to input from the staff. Each committee can start to at least give some thought and bring back some ideas that the board can consider. And then we can probably work, we probably should look at our bylaws. I don't think we've looked at those in quite a while either, just to see if we're gonna sit here and put some new content into the bylaws. It might be worth taking a look at the bylaws overall and just see, they may not mesh with kind of where we've evolved to now, and there might be some enhancements. And that may be something that I don't want to put more on Ashley and staff's plate, but maybe with some input from them on how we ought to maybe consider that in the grand scheme of everything else you all have going on, but, I found if you don't look at those things over time, you find out that they sometimes diverge from where you actually are and the bylaws are over here, so, I think that's a good idea as well. Other comments from commissioners or questions?
Are the committee naming conventions in stone? Like titles of the committee?
Nope. I think the board can, with input from the committees, or those were frankly, probably me and just kind of what made sense, but.
You did a great job.
I am not committed to any of them. And we obviously changed the real estate investment committee, so, I'm sure that the HR professional in the room can come up with a much better title for her committee than
Great.
what I came up with. You're not gonna hurt my feelings.
No.
Let's change to that.
Yeah. All right, moving on to new business. We have resolution number 47. Preliminary approval to issue, issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds, Eagle Trace.
All right, this resolution is the inducement resolution for up to 16.2 million in multifamily housing revenue bonds for Eagle Trace located at 200 Diversity Way in Raleigh. South Creek Development is the developer for this property. Per state statute, RHA is the issuer for these bonds. They are non-recourse bonds, so if the developer were to default on these bonds, RHA is not financially responsible. Eagle Trace is a 90-unit senior property with 32 one-bedroom units and 58 two-bedroom units, serving residents between 30 to 70% AMI, with 9 of the units serving residents at 30% AMI. Also, the property is required to accept Housing Choice vouchers due to a requirement of the 4% tax credits. Contract rents will range from $675 to $1,900. The total project is approximately $27 million, including funding from bonds, 4% tax credits, deferred developer fee, and a member loan. The developer is willing to include a preference in their tenant selection plan for RHA residents displaced due to redevelopment. This has been reviewed by RHA's legal counsel with no exceptions, and I would recommend approval. Andy with South Creek Development is on the call if there are any questions.
Do you have any questions for the staff or the applicant? I'm gonna just renew, I made a suggestion last time that we consider the idea of the first refusal, similar to this preference that we asked applicants for in the past, and I know we haven't necessarily discussed it. I think there was some consensus that it could be done. There wasn't anything wrong with asking for it. And, you know, this may not come up or be an issue for 20 to 30 years, but I feel like having it in there and giving the housing authority a crack at the opportunity to buy it, if it's gonna be conveyed, it's not bad. And I'm not suggesting I'm not suggesting this applicant agree to it in this context, but I would like us to explore that going forward, and when the opportunity presents itself, consider that. But other questions directly about this resolution? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on resolution number 47.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Gwen, you want to call the vote?
Sure. Eric Braun,
Yes.
Evan Covington Chavez,
Yes.
Valerie Crutchfield,
Yes.
Susan Ellinger,
Yes.
Veronica Goodwin,
Yes.
Arnie Morris,
Yes.
Greg Warren.
Yes.
Resolution number 47 has been adopted.
Thank you. That brings us to resolution number 48, issuance and sale of multifamily housing revenue bonds, the Avery.
All right, this resolution approves the issuance of 32.5 million in multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Avery, a 181 unit multifamily residential development on Old Pool Road in Raleigh. Rowers Company is the developer for this property. The property includes 36 one-bedroom units, 108 two-bedroom units, and 37 three-bedroom units, with all units serving residents at 60% AMI or below. Also, as a requirement of the tax credits, the property is required to accept housing choice vouchers. The tenant selection plan for the Avery will include a preference for RHA residents displaced due to redevelopment. With this resolution, you are approving the CEO, chair, and/or vice chair to execute any documents related to the issuance of the multifamily housing revenue bonds. This has been reviewed by RHA's legal counsel with no exceptions, and I recommend approval. Julia with Rowers Company is on the Zoom call if there are any questions.
Do we have any questions for staff or the representatives of the applicant? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for resolution number 48.
I move to approve resolution number 48.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of resolution number 48. Gwen?
Eric Braun,
Yes.
Evan Covington Chavez.
Yes.
Valerie Crutchfield,
Yes.
Susan Ellinger,
Yes.
Veronica Goodwin,
Yes.
Arnie Morris,
Yes.
Greg Warren.
Yes.
Resolution number 48 has been adopted.
Thank you. That brings us to resolution number 49, approving the financing fee for the Avery.
This resolution is also related to the $32.5 million in multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Avery. This resolution is to approve the finance team. This resolution is required by the North Carolina Local Government Commission. It has been reviewed by RHA's legal counsel with no exceptions, and I recommend approval.
Just make a comment. Man, there's a lot of lawyers on these deals.
That's my comment too. It's like, I was trying to match everybody up
The
here.
tax credit program exists for so many years.
Great for
Lawyers and accountants.
sorry for diverting us from the matter at hand. Any questions? Hearing none, I entertain a resolution for, entertain a motion for resolution number 49.
I move to approve resolution number 49.
I'll second. Gwen?
Eric Braun,
Yes.
Evan Covington Chavez.
Yes.
Valerie Crutchfield,
Yes.
Susan Ellinger,
Yes.
Veronica Goodwin,
Yes.
Arnie Morris,
Yes.
Greg Warren.
Yes.
Resolution number 49 has been adopted.
I would just note, Eric, that the big beautiful bill had an increase in tax credits. So that just again demonstrates to you the powerful lobby that is behind tax credits.
But the tax credits were a Reagan invention or construction. So I wonder, I thought that maybe was why it kind
Of course, Section 8 was a Nixon program.
Well, that's right. That's right. But you're showing your age, Greg.
One that's just approved is scheduled to close August 14th.
Oh, well.
It'll be at 1% of 32 million to the housing.
Good work, you did. Brings us to, we actually stole most of Kenya's thunder, I think, but
You're giving you.
well, we have resolution number 50, which is a resolution authorizing a section 8 application for the disposition of scattered sites. And again, when I said, I just want the public to understand the disposition is a friendly transaction between the housing authority and an entity that's wholly controlled by the housing authority. Let's say that enough. We are not selling the scattered site to private entity or developers.
Okay, this resolution authorizes RHA to submit a section 18 application and seek approval for the disposition on the scattered sites portfolio. The scattered sites consist of 108 single-family homes that are included in the public housing portfolio. Per section 18, public housing agencies are eligible to convert a scattered site public housing portfolio as the dispersed nature of the portfolio assets increases operational complexity and resource demands. As has been discussed in previous meetings, a key part of the redevelopment strategy for the agency includes repositioning of the public housing units. This effort has also been referenced in our strategic plan, the agency annual plan, and the agency 5-year plan. The proposed strategy is to initially dispose of these units or convey these units at less than fair market value to an RHA instrumentality. Upon HUD approval, RHA will apply for a Section 8 tenant protection vouchers to replace the public housing subsidies. As part of this conversion, there will be no forced tenant relocation, but relocation is optional, again, but not required. Rents will continue to be affordable on these units. More than 10 meetings were held in May and June, with nearly 40 plus residents participating through virtual and in-person meetings. Meetings were also held with the resident council and RHA and the RHA Resident Advisory Board. RHA staff has monthly recurring meetings with the city of Raleigh, as well as Wade County staff. And the housing staff has been advised of this proposed conversion. Further, the CEO has met with the city of Raleigh mayor, who has provided a letter of support for the redevelopment. I recommend approval of resolution.
So moved.
Well, let me at least get.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. It was the last item on the agenda.
I just want to make sure that we didn't have any additional questions. I know we had discussions earlier, but I just want to make sure if anybody did have additional questions, wanting to do things. All right, hearing none, I think Greg made a motion to approve, and I heard a second.
Veronica, second.
Veronica, when?
Eric Braun,
Yes.
Evan Covington Chavez.
Yes.
Valerie Crutchfield.
Yes.
Susan Illinger,
Yes.
Veronica Goodwin,
Yes.
Arnie Morris,
Yes.
Greg Warren.
Yes.
Resolution number 50 has been adopted.
All right, and our last item is a policy and program discussion. Actually, I don't know if somebody's gonna present to us, or if this is an open kind of discussion.
So I will continue the presentation that I started in the last month's meeting. So not a whole lot of detail to add to what I talked about. Today I'll just provide examples of how we have used the tools that we've created and that are available to us to meet the goals and demands of our repositioning efforts. So Gwen, I tried to share and it said, oh, there you have turned it on. Good. Thank you. So last month I let me just find where do I go? Slideshow and from the beginning. Okay, so last month I talked about repositioning and project-based vouchers, and talked about two primary repositioning tools, Section 18, primarily a disposition and or demolition program where the units that are disposed of in demolition or demolished are replaced with Section 8 vouchers. And that's the extent of it. There's no requirement for one replacement or anything. Just a requirement for commensurate public benefit if the property is sold at less than fair market value. So the tenant protection vouchers and the land can be used to leverage funding for development, but there's no development funding. The rental assistance demonstration program, on the other hand, is the conversion of public housing to the Section 8 program. So there's no choice about the direction there. One-for-one replacement is required, unlike the Section 18 program. And there are various under the RAD, there are various options. One that has become particularly attractive since December, and one that we will mostly adhere to or use for the replacement of our public housing units with new units that serve the same population, and most likely in mixed income situations. So those two are the primary HUD repositioning tools. And then I talked about project-based vouchers, provided kind of the basics of project-based vouchers, and talked about it as our housing authority or housing authority superpower, because it can be used in so many ways to achieve goals. A lot of these goals that they can achieve are very consistent with our strategic plan, and we, over time, we will maximize our strategic use of project-based vouchers to reposition up our units, our public housing, as well as create additional affordable housing in and around Raleigh. So this is how far we got last week or last month. For the remainder of the presentation, I just want to provide some examples of how we are in the process of transitioning or repositioning our public housing properties. So we created a project-based voucher program where we didn't have any, so that is a tool that we have. We are using the repositioning tools, HUD, the Section 18 and RAD, but of course we have other tools at our disposal, including, I don't want to call our Department of Real Estate Development a tool, but they're part of our capacity to are doing now. We have a Department of Resident Services that take the lead in engagement with our residents, which is a necessary part of what we are trying to do. But let me focus on this first example, scattered sites units. Just some basic facts. We have 108 scattered sites units. They're single family homes in the city of Raleigh, and they have an estimated value of $34 million. The repositioning tool that we're using for scattered sites is Section 18, not RAD. We are disposing of the scattered sites to one of our affiliates, or not affiliates, related entities, and it has to be an instrumentality of the housing authority at less than fair market value. And under the Section 18 program, we're eligible for 108 tenant protection vouchers. Now, you're eligible, or all units are eligible if they've been occupied within the last 24 months. And our our scattered sites units have been all been occupied, and so we are eligible for 108 tenant protection vouchers. So what is the replacement housing? We as the housing authority are committed to one-for-one replacement of all of our housing under repositioning, and with units that serve extremely low income households. So what's the replacement housing here? There's no At this time, there's no replacement housing because the tenants who are currently in the units will lease in place unless they choose to take their voucher elsewhere. So each of them will get a tenant-based voucher. They will lease in place. So there's no requirement for relocation. So since we are essentially acquiring these properties or disposing of them for $1, we have to prove commensurate public benefit. And that is that the single-family homes will serve current residents. So that's the replacement housing, the use of project-based vouchers. So we will not be basing these vouchers. At some point, these most or all of them or some of them will become available for home ownership. And at that point, we may choose to project base the equivalent vouchers that we've received in order to replace the units one for one. But that's not a requirement. That would be a choice for the housing authority if we choose to replace these units, hard units for hard units. And again, 100% of tenant protection vouchers can be project-based. So essentially, we can at some point in the future, take the 108 vouchers and project-base them, or the equivalent of 100% of them, and project-base them. So that's the scattered sites example of repositioning scattered sites. The next one that you are very familiar with is Heritage Park repositioning. Basic facts, 122 units. It's not just seniors that are occupying those properties or that those, oh no, I'm talking about Heritage Park. Switch gears to Glenwood Towers. So families and seniors, 11.6 acres. Again, the repositioning tool is section 18, which has been approved, and we're going to dispose of the property to a related entity at less than fair market value. Now, we were awarded 112 tenant protection vouchers instead of 122 because 10 of those units at the time that we applied had been vacant for more than 24 months. So we did not get awarded 10 those additional tenant protection vouchers. But what we can do if we so choose is to, for those 10 units, apply for RAD project-based vouchers. So those would just be converted, could be converted under RAD, and then we would still get a form of subsidy that will be much lower than the tenant protection voucher. Nevertheless, one of
How do you determine below market value? How is that defined? Is there an appraisal? I mean, how is that number arrived at for these dispositions?
So, so just because we're essentially selling these or disposing of these properties to a related entity, basically for $1, we know that's less than fair market value. So we would have to get, multiple appraisals if we were selling it at fair market value to make sure that the public gets its worth.
So there's no requirement about determining what that value is. You can set it at $1.
We can set that whatever the price is, but as part of the application, we are required to do some type of valuation. That could be in a variety of forms. It could be an appraisal, or it could be like a broker's opinion. In the case of the scattered sites, we got appraisals for all of those, and then we initially, at the time we submitted the application for Heritage Park, we did a broker's opinion of value, and then got an appraisal as part of the due diligence for the application.
So, the approvals and the requests for disposition vary. So we can, for example, dispose of a property at fair market value through public bid. So we can put the property on the market, and who the highest bidder would get it, and that would be the market value. We can also get an approval for disposition at fair market value, a negotiated sale. And in that case, appraisals would definitely be in order. Even if it's sold to a related entity at fair market value, appraisals would be required. But if it's to a totally different entity, it could be done through negotiated bid.
So quick question. So at Heritage, we had a choice. We could have sold it to a related entity for market value, right? Subject to appraisal, or the dollar type of arrangement, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the choice that we made.
Theoretically, actually, I think this is true if, say we wanted to sell it, and not that we are, obviously we're not, but if Heritage Park, we were gonna sell it to a developer, we could still sell it at a reduced an amount less than fair market value, but more than $1, if they were still gonna operate it as affordable housing, and as essentially a subsidy to maintain it as affordable property.
Right. But yes, it can be sold that way, but there's no obligation under the Section 18 program to basically, no obligation for one replacement. So, theoretically, there could be a promise to replace 50 units, for folks under 30% and provide other affordable housing. And that HUD would make make a judgment whether that constitutes commensurate public benefit. Sometimes, these negotiations about what is a commensurate public benefit can go on for months and months without agreement if HUD, does not like your particular proposal. So replacement housing, we're replacing all of the housing, the 122 units through new construction. A minimum of 1-for-1 replacement would meet the commensurate public benefit requirement, but that's not relevant here because it is relevant because we have a minimum of 1-for-1 replacement of deeply subsidized units. So that equates to commensurate public benefit. I've been involved in one situation where we were going to do 1-for-1, and HUD for months did not think that that was enough. So sometimes it appears random. So the use of project-based vouchers here at Heritage Park, of course, what we did was for relocation, we used our project-based program and policy to essentially project-based vouchers in the properties of other owners, and particularly units that were going to come online roughly the same time that we needed relocation. So project-based vouchers were really the ideal relocation vehicle, although less than 50% of the residents used project-based vouchers, but they were an essential part of the mix of relocation opportunities. Now, for the replacement housing, we will also be using project-based vouchers. So in Heritage Park, project-based vouchers featured prominently as part of our relocation, and I should say again, a very successful relocation process. And project-based vouchers will be essential in the replacement of a one-for-one replacement of deeply subsidized units at Heritage Park.
Question,
Oh,
for Heritage, I think it would be useful if you haven't shared it with us already, and if you have, I apologize, to get a better understanding as to where people went. How many of them went to public housing versus how many went to LIHTC properties, or the close by, or, I remember with Capitol Park, there was a lot of discussion about where do those people go, and I think it's really important that we can tell the story.
A very timely question there and request. Laura McCann, upon completion of the relocation of all residents at Heritage Park, wrote up a wonderful report, and I will circulate that to all of the board members. We will probably post it on our website also, but Laura will be sure to indicate also which, whether they were LIHTC or not, but there were a range of options that our residents had that they exercised, including public housing, tenant-based Section 8 vouchers, and project-based vouchers. So the last example that I want to share is Glenwood Towers. Glenwood Towers has 288 units. It's a 14-floor high-rise. It is a mixed population building, which means that there are seniors in that building, as well as younger people who have one or other disability, at least one or other disability. So it is a mixed population building, and so when we pursue replacement, we can't just go for senior units, but there's 3.1 acres over there with assessed land value of about $28.75 million. The repositioning tool that we're using is a RAD Section 18 blend. We submitted that application earlier this year, as we talked about earlier, and are now at the approval stage, the first stage of the approval of the application. We will be disposing of Glenwood Towers, the property, to an RHA related entity. We will be eligible to receive vouchers, tenant protection vouchers, for 90% of those units. So we will be eligible to receive 259 vouchers that we can project-based tenant protection vouchers, is not TBVs, but TPVs. And then we're also eligible to receive RAD project-based vouchers for the remainder of the 288 units. And so, with these, we don't have a choice to apply for the RAD PBVs or not. We have to take them, and we have to utilize them to replace 100% of the units, unlike Section 18, where there's no such requirement. There is an exception in under RAD, is that there's a de minimis reduction in units allowed for up to 5%, but no more than 5. So what is the replacement housing for Glenwood Towers? The details have not been uh, uh, have not been specified. However, the requirement is in order to get a Section 18 blend with vouchers for 90% of the units, to get that approved, we have to replace the units with new construction and or acquisition, or if we had another property that had no subsidy in it, we could project-based the vouchers in those in that property. But generally for us, we're going to be seeking acquisition opportunities and also new construction as a way of replacing the housing. So Halifax, for example, is such a property that's still public housing land, and we will be able to build the replacement housing for Glenwood Towers on that property. Now, there's a chance that we could acquire 270, 280 units of housing prior to us developing that property, but those things are still options for us to pursue. But we have to replace every single unit except for the 5% de minimis reduction. So the use of project-based vouchers here, again, we're going to be using project-based vouchers for relocation as much as we can. We have started to receive Heritage Park tenant protection vouchers, so we may come to the board in a month or two to request a policy change so that we can allow Glenwood Towers residents to receive a priority for vouchers so that they can start relocating. And again, we will use project-based vouchers, and this is a requirement for the replacement housing. So project-based vouchers, again, features prominently as a tool, a necessary tool in the repositioning of our public housing. I dread to draw your attention to the large number of vacant units at Glenwood Towers that drags down our occupancy rate. It doesn't matter whether those units are occupied or not. We will get a replacement voucher for those, but just want to point out that this is why we prioritize Glenwood Towers, is because those units started getting damaged by bad plumbing in certain stacks, and so every time there have been floods, we've had to spend a lot of money and resources doing asbestos work, mold work, and so we especially this summer, we lost a lot of, earlier this summer, we lost a lot of units at Glenview to damage. And so right now, I believe there are 45 units at a minimum that's vacant there. But this is why we prioritize Glenwood, so that we can provide safe, decent housing for our residents. And that's the third and last example that I wanted to share with you, so you can develop an understanding of the tools that we have and how we combine them to achieve the agency's strategic plan with respect to our real estate. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Do we have any questions? I know these are all complex things. I feel like I'm just kind of starting getting in alone after 6 years, so I know it's not easy, or maybe I'm slow. I don't know which, or combination, but thank you for that. I think I forgot to mention one more just final comment. I did want to thank and recognize Katie and her team with the communications, because we really upped our game open. I see lots of social media posts on LinkedIn and things, so I feel like we're really doing a good job in communicating externally, and I'm glad to see the new on the move communication going out. So I think we have a lot of good stories to share, and we need to make sure that information is getting out there. So unless there's any other business.
Eric, for this slot on program and policy, Katie will be preparing a presentation of our communication efforts, strategic engagement efforts with the board next month. So looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that. Anything else before we adjourn? Well, thanks to staff, and appreciate all the good attendance today by the board. Have a great night. Thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Asking me, that's happened to you.